The brand new Arlecchino and Lenny banners have just dropped alongside the weapon banner. We're going to go through the 5 stars, the 4 stars, and the weapons, talk about whether these banners are worth it for you, and also go over the new artifact sets that were just revealed a couple days ago. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we've built and tested every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. And of course, we continue to build and test every single character, so make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell because Arlecchino will be coming out in just a couple days, and I'll be testing her for every waking moment that I possibly can with every single teammate, up to 30 plus teammates, to test all the combinations to tell exactly how good they all are for you. So again, subscribe and you'll know when that video goes live and also when the new update drops, because I'll be releasing it the very minute that it does. So starting off with Arlecchino and Lenny, the 5 stars, and then I'll talk about the 4 stars. So should you get Arlecchino, as with every new character, we need to test them before we can say for sure. I know that there's math done, I know that there's a lot we already know, but it is not set in stone whether a character is good or bad or medium or worth it or strong or weak or whatever, or flexible or not flexible, until we actually get to test the character. And so that's what we'll be doing. And I know it'd be nice to compare her to the current banners like Cosmo and Novelette, but let's be real, those are 2 of the best characters in the game. So it could be that Arlecchino joins their ranks and becomes one of the best characters in the game, but those characters are a sure thing. So if you're wanting one of those characters, I'll just get them now. They have great 4 stars on the banner. They're on banner right now. You should really be getting Arlecchino as an early adopter, you know, getting her before we test and review and you get to see. I'll be doing a lot of testing, like 10 plus hours, 12 hours, 14 hours of testing to make sure that I can give you all the information I possibly can for Arlecchino. So you will know on day 1 a pretty good idea, along with everything you learn from other creators as well. But looking at it from like kind of like a backseat perspective, just kind of with what we know so far, she's gonna be a little tricky to get the maximum amount out of her. She can only heal herself. She can't be healed from other teammates. And so, and that healing being tied to your burst, meaning you'll only be able to do it once per rotation. So you can't take that much damage. It's very important. So to really max that out might be a little tricky. And a lot of players are probably going to want to play her with a shielder like Zhongli or Toma. Toma's not on the banner. Zhongli obviously hasn't been on the banner for a long time. That's one of the biggest things I want to test is, do you have to use her with a shielder? How easy is it to get away without a shielder? But I imagine a character that can't be healed is going to be hard to play without a shielder. But we'll see. It actually seems like she's taught some of her ways to Lenny, and he's taken after his father, because both of them seem to be a very high risk, high reward playstyle. Lenny is definitely that. He's one of the stronger DPSs in the game. So if you really love Lenny, I think he's a great character to go for. I think he's a great character to get, but he is hard, really hard to play. He's definitely not my playstyle. I would just make sure that you really like the playstyle because he's very hard to max out. And I think it's possible that Arlecchino could be in that same camp, but what you can do with both of them is just run them with a shielder. You can just put a shielder on the team and suddenly, you know, you don't need to really worry that much because you have Zhongli with infinite interruption resistance. And Lenny has some very comfortable teams. I talked about it in my Lenny guide. I'll link it at the end. I'll also link my Arlecchino video at the end so you can watch those and deep dive into either one of these 2 characters. But I think these characters are both characters that have really good options that are very comfy, and then they have great options that probably require a bit more skill expression, require a bit more practice, require a bit more finesse. Whereas characters like Novelette, he has good teams that are comfy and he has great teams that are comfy. Whereas these characters don't as much. Like characters like Raiden, she has good teams that are comfy and she has great teams, maybe not quite as great as Novelette, but she has great teams that are comfy. These characters are a bit more high risk, high reward. And probably both of their playstyles are not for everyone. But look at this. Look at that splash art. That's gorgeous. I would not be able to resist that. There's no way. I'm so freaking hyped for her just because of this freaking splash art and this banner art. It looks so amazing. It's probably the best banner art that I've ever seen. Like, I'm getting so hyped for this character just looking at that. My hype goes away a little bit because I'm hyped when I'm looking at the center, and then my hype goes towards the 4 stars. Not so hyped anymore. I thought that Chevreuse would be on this banner, and that would have been great because she is one of the best 4 stars in the game. And instead, we're getting Fremine, Lynette, and Xiangling. Obviously, if you don't have C4 Xiangling, C4 is huge. Getting a C4 Xiangling will massively help your account. But if you already have C4, then obviously, you know, the next ones don't do as much for you. And a lot of longtime players already have C6, obviously. But Xiangling is a great character. You can use Xiangling with both of these characters. Both of Kazuha, Bennett, Xiangling will be both of one of these characters' best AoE AoE teams especially. So that's definitely something that you'll want to have in your back pocket for when AoE is very good in the Abyss. Both of these characters will be extremely good on that team. So Xiangling is a good character to be on this banner. Like, that's the reality. I personally, 4 stars are so unreliable that it's impossible to wish for 4 stars. Like, you can't zero in on them. There's 3 of them. It's only a 50% chance to even get one of these 3, and then it's a 1 in 3 on top of that. So it's a 1 in 6 to get a certain one. Very, very annoying, very, very tricky. And I personally just recommend you go for your favorite 5 stars. You get your 5-star supports for your favorite 5 stars, and the 4 stars are kind of an afterthought. Yes, sure, if you happen to have good 4 stars, great, but because you can't target them, I don't even really recommend people, only wishing on good banners, because you could easily just get unlucky and not get those 4 stars. Personally, there's enough incredible 5 stars that you only need to get 4 to 6 5 stars, and you're pretty much set on your account. I have a video about that, by the way. It's called Never Wish Again Fontaine Edition, or something, I don't know, something like that. If you have these characters, you beat the game. I don't know. But basically, it's much better just to go for what you can guarantee, because within a year, when all the characters rerun and you get your 5 to 8 to 10 5 stars that you get from playing that year, you can build out your account with your favorites and with your staples and with their supports, and with the 4 stars along the way, you can build a great account in a year or whatever. That's kind of my recommended plan. And 4 stars are sort of an icing on the cake. They're sort of a bonus. They're not something you can target, so they're not something you should rely on, because if your foundation is getting good 4-star banners, because there's RNG on RNG. There's the RNG of getting a good 4-star banner, then there's actually getting the character that you wanted from the banner. So it's really hard to recommend going for 4 stars specifically. But let's break down. You do end up with a bunch of Xiangling. What do you do with her? Well, you can do everything with her. Xiangling is broken. Having C4 Xiangling is a staple. You probably should build her. She's an off-field DPS, so she works with so many characters. It's ridiculous. I have a Xiangling guide. You check out that if you want. Fremine is a character that you only build if you like him, because he is a DPS. I do think physical can and will be saved. It's not saved yet. We still need more physical support. I think probably this will come in some off-field physical DPS one day, and that also buffs physical, and that you can have 2 characters on a team that taking advantage of super conduct instead of just the on-field character, and then Fremine and Eula will actually have more power. Right now you can run Fremine as a pretty good Hyperbloom driver, but it's really only if you actually like Fremine. I'll probably make a guide and I'll probably borrow someone's account, because mine isn't C6, and I probably won't be wishing too much on this banner, because my Arlecchino is like guaranteed, I think, and I don't know, I have already pity built up from wishing for Goro, so I probably won't be getting C6 Fremine, so I'll hopefully be able to test him C6 on a viewer account and make a Fremine guide at some point. But currently, like, he's not a character you build for meta. He's like, if you already have your 2 teams, you can already 36 star the Abyss, then you start to work on your project Fremine, and that's kind of what I recommend for Fremine. Lynette's a bit different, because you still don't really want to hyper invest into her unless you really like her, but she does have some uses. She's really good early game as VV, and the taunt is pretty nice, and the exploration is okay, especially if you have her C1, I think it is, or maybe your C2, I can't remember, to get some more exploration. And then she can be sort of a support, and she can be an off-field DPS for Zhao, or for basically any team. If you have C6 Farazan, she can be an off-field DPS, and then when you do get her C6, she can be an on-field DPS, and she's more comfy than Farazan, other than Wanderer, and her damage ceiling isn't as high, but it's good, and you can run her as a taser driver and different things, so she's pretty good if you want to use her. But again, these aren't high value 4 stars. They're definitely ones that are good, but they're not great. They're no Chevreuse, they're no Xiangling, they're no Bennett. They're good, but they're also no, they're also not some of the worst ones, you know who they are. So 4 stars are okay. Now let's talk. Okay, they're not okay. They're not that great, to be honest. But again, I don't recommend you really look at the 4 stars when you're wishing for a 5 star, personally. So moving on to the weapon banner. First, looking at Arlecchino's specific weapon, high base attack, low crit rate. Continuing the trend for Fontaine weapons, likely we're going to get an attack percent buffer in the future is what people are thinking. I agree, to take advantage of this high base attack. It makes her less Bennett reliant, so her other teams go up in comparison to Bennett teams, which can be more flexible. I've definitely noticed this when using Navia teams, for example, that when I use it without Bennett, you can see the value of the 5-star weapon more. What is this passive? Grants Bond of Life up to 25% when your charge attack hits an opponent. Effect can be triggered once every 14 seconds. When the equipping character has a Bond of Life, they gain 12%. So this is universal. Everyone who uses this weapon will get the Bond of Life. And if the Bond of Life is equal or greater to 30%, so this is Arlecchino specific, then they gain an additional 24% damage bonus. So pretty good, then very good when you actually have the Bond of Life. So this is good. The additional Bond of Life does give more damage to Arlecchino, which is nice. And overall, this will be a good weapon for her. It's not going to be like a crazy upgrade for her. I wouldn't be surprised if her Constellation 1, wink wink, has a bigger upgrade than the weapon for her, but it'll still be big. I think people are thinking 10 to 15%, something like that. And also keep in mind that when you attach it to her, it turns into a scythe, only to her. So people playing Drip Impact, this is probably going to be a must pull. I don't know if they advertise it here. Yeah, it's right here. So you can see that it does turn into a scythe, which is obviously badass. You know, Drip Impact players, it's a must pull. It is what it is. It doesn't turn into this scythe when it's on other characters, which I get because a lot of animations would probably look really weird with that weapon. So I do get why they did it, but it does feel a little bit like, I don't know, something in me goes when I see that it only turns into a scythe for her, and she also doesn't get this badass scythe with another one. But it's not really that different from other characters, so I get it overall. Overall, I would go for this weapon if I was going to main Arlecchino. I'm not sure that I will because the weapon banner kind of looks sus. I already have first great magic. I already have Aqua Simulacra. I do not need a second first great magic. So, and you just know that I'll be getting the first great magic if I try and wish on this weapon banner. But I do think for people who don't have the first great magic and you do build either Linny or Tighnari or Ganyu, or you don't have any 5-star bows at all, this could be okay for you. It's not as good of a stat stick for not those characters, but for those characters it is really good. And the weapon also looks incredible. It like completes Linny's look to me. Like I couldn't play Linny without it just because I'm like superficial like that. So if you're going for Arlecchino and you play one of those characters, this is a pretty good weapon banner for you. Again, I know the 4-stars look really bad. I like to ignore the 4-stars because they're not guaranteed. You could get crappy 4-stars the whole way through it, even if they were a good weapon banner. So personally, I like to go for the 5-stars, but it is really sad that we don't have either a Fav Lance or a Fav Sword, because that's what you really want to see on a weapon banner to really enhance your account. And the fact that it doesn't have that does really hurt a lot, and that is bad for this weapon banner. What about the spear? Is that a good universal weapon? I think it's gonna probably be similar to something like the Jadewing Spear, but it's a bit more universal, but a bit less powerful than some other universal spears. So like it affects more characters with its passive because it's the damage bonus, but it's a bit less powerful because the high base attack, currently a lot of characters when they're running with Bennett or they're scaling with Aggravate or something else, doesn't make it as good. But if you don't have any other 5-star spears, like it's not a horrible one to lose to. Like if you're using an attack scaling polearm character, it's going to be good for them. So 5-star wise, this is like not the S tier 5-stars, but kind of like the one below. So it's pretty solid. And if you have specific characters or specific combinations, then it will be good. But when you look at the 4-stars, that's where it gets kind of sus. Because like I said, it doesn't have Fav Spear or Fav Sword, so kind of hurts. It does have Favonius Bow, but you do get one for free. You don't usually need as many copies of Favonius Bow as you do Favonius Lance or Sword, so it's okay. It's good. It's a good bow. It's one of the better bows to have, maybe the best bow to have, but still, not what you'd love to see. You have Dockhand, so if you do run Nilou, it can be a good upgrade if you get a high refine, but like getting a high refine probably means you lost your 50-50 on the weapon banner, so that's already an L. And it's just not that big of an upgrade compared to Iron Sting or something, which considering it's a craftable is kind of not that impressive. And the key is still such a big upgrade from the Dockhand, so it's nice. Like you can use it with Layla or something like that, but it's not incredible. And Dragon's Bane, good for Hu Tao, good for EM Raiden, but that's only one copy. Toma does want to use Katane Crossbeer anyways, the Inazuma craftable, so it's not really that good to get multiple copies of Dragon's Bane. Eye of Perception, probably the worst weapon in the game, and the big buzzsaw looks cool, but so far we don't have anyone that does anything with it. So pretty bad weapon. 4-stars overall. Generally not advisable to wish for this weapon until you're in your end game and you're playing Drip and min-max impact. Otherwise, this is kind of a stay away. But yeah, I do want her Scythe, but I'm personally gonna stay away for now. Maybe I'll get her Scythe on the rerun. So that's that. I did quickly want to talk about the new artifact. So starting with Arlecchino's 2-piece is 18%. You'll notice that both are 2-piece 18% attack, which is good because that's very universal. A lot of characters want 2-piece. Even Linny, check out my Linny guide, wants 2-piece attack or 2-piece pyro damage attack, whatever. It's a good thing to have for a lot of characters can use 2-piece attack really well. So if you have to farm this set, it's not that, like, even if you don't need one of the other sets, it's not that bad to get the 2-piece attack if you have some OP pieces. So something to keep in mind anyways. It's not incredible, but it's definitely not, there's some constellation there. When the value of Bond of Life increases or decreases, so for Arlecchino all the time, obviously, this character deals 18% damage for 6 seconds, max 3 stack, increased damage. This is good. This is 36, 40, 50, 54%. It's quite a big increase, to be honest. It will be her best in slot. I think the math currently is sitting around 10 to 12% increase. So honestly, honestly, like Gladiator is going to be her other good option. And if you're not going to farm any sets and you just want to use what you have for Gladiator, you can. And if you're happy with her, great. But if you're going to farm a set, this is the one you want to farm, and it's going to be worth it to farm. Like if you're getting Arlecchino, you want to main her and you want to max her out, you're going to be committing yourself to farming for this set. That 10 to 12% increase is worth farming for. I think it might even be lower, it might even be 8, but I think that still is worth farming for. Now, you will have to get very good pieces to outmatch your Glad pieces, so maybe some people don't want to do that, and that's fine, but just don't farm Glad. Don't strongbox Glad. If you're going to be spending resin or resources for Arlecchino, go for this set. It's going to be worth it if you're maining her. If you're just collecting with her and you just want to have a set, then Glad's going to be fine because you probably have good Glad pieces. After leaving combat for 3 seconds, damage dealt increased by 50%, and basically if there's burning around, you get to stay at 50% or work up to 50% if it went down. So essentially, this is a burning set for a DPS. It doesn't increase burning though. It's kind of like Chevreuse, where she doesn't increase overload damage. This gives damage to characters used on a burning team. So Melt Ganyu comes to mind, maybe Melt Risley. Other than that, I don't know who else would actually use this artifact set. It probably will be their best in slot for those teams, but those are very specific teams. Like I wouldn't farm a set just to use for one character's one team. That's kind of weird. So I'm guessing that there's going to be a burning character, that the character that's used exclusively in burning or like specialized for burning in the future. That's what this tells me. This is not really about current characters, which I'm really excited for. I hope that we get this soon because this sounds awesome. I really want to use burning. Currently there's like no teams that use burning really well. Like yeah, I said Ganyu and Risley, but I don't love them. So yeah, this domain is very interesting. I'm definitely going to be farming it for my Arlecchino for sure. Let me know if you will be. And then obviously just remember that Farina didn't rerun, so she'll definitely rerun next patch. Like surely, I thought she would, everyone did, but Genshin liked to keep us on our toes, and so they said no, not this time. Also remember Clorand is coming up probably in the next patch, if not the one after that, because she has to come before the end of Fontaine surely. So just remember, if you are going to go for those, then great, but this is the coolest splash art I've ever seen. So I'm in love with this. I'm so excited to wish for her. I'm getting very excited. Let me know if you're going to go for her. Check out these 2 videos if you want to deep dive onto Arlecchino or Lenny, and remember to subscribe so that you can see my day 1 Arlecchino guide if she's worth it. Let me know what you're going to do. Take care. Bye for now.